So again, remember the octanol, reg wigglers, worms. All right, so this was my first worm experiment to show you that remember the nursery pots full of oyster mushroom mycelium? So this could be your little gallon oyster mushroom jar, growing off your coffee grounds. Once it fruits 2-3 times, you can take that cake and compost it, all right? If you colonize it, I think one of the key questions that you're probably thinking is, well, why can't maybe I should expand it first, right? Once it's fruited 2 to 3 times, you can't expand it anymore. It was sweating, and it was attracting other organisms, bacteria, and other molds. And then if you try to expand that, you're going to get contamination or molds, okay? So your opportunity, your window for expanding your mycelium is right when it's done colonizing, before it fruits, right? That's why you may not want to crack the golden egg, Always keep some going. Don't fruit all of your cultures. Keep some held back. Keep the best looking ones held back. The pick of the litter, right? So anyway, I had worms. Oh, that's terrible. I don't like to be stuck behind a podium. There's the red wigglers, right? You know what also works really good? Do you remember how I was growing them in totes? Is just adding the worms right to the totes, and now you have a container that's like a worm farm. And they'll just eat up the material inside the tote. All right, you can add some holes to the bottom. So you go from stuff that looks like that to that in 8 weeks. All right, that should make you excited as a farmer, as a gardener, because mushrooms eat myceliated things, or worms eat myceliated things, and then inside the worm are gut bacteria. It's like a bioreactor. And the mycelium feeds the bacteria, and out comes a worm casting. All right? Worm casting's good. Are they expensive? $200 a cubic yard. Wholesale. That's why a little tiny bag goes for a lot of money. So I did my math, and I figured that if I grow 700 pounds of mushrooms a week, I add the worms, by the end of the year, I've got $38,000 worth of beautiful worm-rich, like casting soil that I could sell as a byproduct. That's a lot. And that math was based on $5 for a 50-pound bag. Am I going to sell it for $5 for a 50-pound bag? No way. It's probably $5 a pound for that. So the number's actually way higher. I might have close to $500,000 if I package it right, just on the byproduct. It's almost like, forget the mushrooms. You know what I mean? The soil's actually worth more. Yeah, this one's. It's the laser works. I just can't get it to it. Yeah. Like me. Don't like me no more. So consider that apart. Now, so that's at 8 weeks. You want to see what it looks like at 20 weeks? Oh, man. And I do tours at our farm. I start with the Lifecycle, the lab, medicinal. We end up in the fruiting room, and I show the last component is my worm bins. And when I flip that thing open, when people see the full circle of the farm, okay, if they can, that would be great. Yeah, this ain't working. When people see the final, I open up that worm bin, and everybody just gasps, like, and they're like, "Can I touch it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and it's like paste. And this is what you want. Oh, sorry?
Have you started selling that?
I haven't started. I'm stockpiling it. I used to sell it by the scoop. I've got so much that I use my skid steer. Somebody would back up a trailer, and I would sell it for $80 for a scoop, like a half of yard. All right? But you know what I figured out I was doing? I was giving all my workers away. The worms were still in it. So there's different techniques that, one's called a Russian wedge technique. If you're serious about it, write that up and look it up. There's no way I can describe how that works right now. But you're essentially putting mushroom mycelium in a pile or a row, and right next to it, as soon as they're done eating or almost done, you put a new row right next to it, and they migrate into the new row, and they leave. You see that? You see what I'm saying? They leave. Most of them are gone. Then you just scoop it up. I think that's cool. It's a good technique. But we hope. Maybe it's just the presenter mode that I have it in. So here's the, because there's a bar up there. I don't know why. So here's some of my old cakes. Look at them. They fruited 5 times, so that would make it 6. But look at the production still. It's pretty high, And I think one of the reasons that it responded like that, it wouldn't have fruited that much in the fruiting room because the carbon dioxide was too high in there. But once it went outside and it got a whiff of freedom, it went nuts. So these are, if it rains and splatters, these aren't sellable because you get like dirt up into the gills, stuff like that. Let's try it. Is it working? I think it's probably the presenter mode that I'm in. I have no idea. I'll just do it by hand until we do it. Okay, that would work. So what's attracted to mushroom mycelium? The octanol. Do you remember? Worms. Oh man, this is why I recommended shiitake on logs, not oyster mushrooms, because this is what you get. If you grow oyster mushrooms in the winter, that's fine. So on logs, write down oyster cold. But if you try to grow warm blue in the summer, this is what your oyster mushrooms are going to look like. It's terrible. They're all eaten up with fungus gnats, right? And then as the mushrooms mature, the gills open up so the spores can come out. So when the gills open up, guess who gets in there? The gnats. They wiggle their way into the cap tissue, they lay their eggs, and now you've got mushrooms filled with little wormy maggots. Is that how you want to market your mushrooms? Maggot mountain? Right? Protein. You're going to try that angle? I don't think it's going to work. Oh, you're going to love these. They're 90% maggots. Yeah.
So is that the main reason why you keep the mushrooms in a fruiting room?
Yeah.
To keep the bugs and
Mm-hmm.
animals and whatever?
Yeah, more so for the insects pressure. And here's the other thing the insects do is if you can control the insects, you also control the vectors that they carry, which are going to be molds and things on their legs. If you make a brand new column, let's say, it's not colonized. It's trying to outcompete everything. So if those little flies are going in the holes, remember the holes you poked? Flies go in, they track around mold spores, the mold starts to eat it, they start to compete, now you have a contamination issue. So if you can tackle the bug problem, you can actually win the mold problem too. But if you have a bug problem, boy, that's terrible. So insect netting, sure. Indoors fruiting all day long. The original one? Are you trying it? Unless you can fix like the presenter mode, I don't know how to, it may be different. I think it's the mode I'm in, I don't know. So there's different, pests in your farm as well. We're MGAP certified, which is the best management practices, that USDA thing. More red tape, more records, got to have it. Insects and microbes are the biggest threats. So if you're growing indoors, you might want to just have some boots, have a little little pan, diluted bleach, you just step in and you walk in. You want to kind of minimize. The worst vector for contamination is you. So showing up clean that day and doing the dirty deeds at the end of the day is how you need to kind of roll. You're not going to come in to work and then do the composting first and then pasteurize your stuff. You're contaminated, right? You're like a ticking time bomb. I couldn't think of any rodents, so. You got to watch out for those subliminal flashes. Is there anybody here from Dow or Monsanto? Okay, just checking. You wouldn't say it if you were. Fungus gnats are the issue, okay? So how do you control these guys? I mean, they multiply out of control. So the adults you can control with this. So I'm going to give you 2 organic ways to get rid of them, because you don't want to use pesticides. Botanigard was removed from organic certification. So here's the new one. It's called Mycotrol. Mycotrol. It's the same exact company, same exact fungus, but it has organic approved filler in it, whatever you want to call it. Mycotrol. It is a fungus that mummifies flying insects. It's pretty awesome, right? It'll mummify the adults as soon as they hatch out in 3 to 4 days. What's the life cycle of a fungus gnat? You think that's important to know? That's your biggest nemesis, is a fungus gnat. So write down your homework assignment is look up fungus gnat life cycle. If you want to get rid of a pest, you got to know, when does it hatch? How long does it take to become sexually active? Do you know how? That's why they call them fruit flies. Man, they mate. They're good at it. They're really good at it. And they just multiply. So it only takes 2 to tango, last time I checked. That will get the adults, but is it quick enough? So how do you stop the fungus gnats? Yeah?
But that stuff works on larger things.
On larger things?
Yeah.
Like what? Like people?
Yeah.
I like the way he thinks. That's why he's in the front. No. Look up at the label, but actually I see whitefly, aphids, thrips, mealybugs. What this tells me is this product is actually more broad spectrum than you think. All right? I'm going to teach you something on how to train these fungi next. All right? You can see all the different organisms. Right? It might not be any better than a chemical pesticide is what I'm telling you, because it might attack what? Beneficials. So let's attack the larvae instead before they hatch. Right? You could use the Mycotrol as a fire extinguisher. So BTI is how that's sold. This will save your farm. If you want to grow mushrooms indoors, go ahead and buy some of this stuff. Now that's what's sold in mosquito dunks. The product you're going to look up is called Gnatrol, Gnatrol. It's not cheap. Gnatrol. It's not cheap, but it'll save your farm. You know what I mean? So what is cheap? You know, I think it was $250 for a 5-gallon pail. I bought that 5 years ago. Do you know how much I've used? 1 cup. That's how potent it is. And it's also because I'm very strict about screening and all that stuff. So just I have it there, again, as an emergency. If I see them multiplying, I can drench the straw with it. And then it'll kill the larvae. So it kills mosquito larvae too. But it's very target specific against fungus gnats. All right? But it is in BTI. I know some people that use the mosquito dunks, if you can't find it, just float it in water. and then you can take the water and just drench or water your growing media. That works fine too. I do that in Haiti. Oh boy. Now you got a problem. Pleasing beetles are not pleasing. All right, they're the little red-headed beetles like that. See that? Has anybody ever seen that on your mushrooms? If you're growing mushrooms outdoors, you're going to see these. You don't see these in the winter, so that's good. But these will every now and then they'll show up on shiitake logs, but they really don't like shiitakes that much, so that's why shiitakes are good outdoors year-round. They have very little insect pressure. Is anybody growing mushrooms right now? Yeah, shiitakes. But if these get indoors, boy, do you have a problem, because these are hard to catch. They drop out of the gills and fly around, and they mate, and they lay their larvae in the caps, and then the whole entire mushroom just becomes larvae at that point. So how do you get rid of that problem? You pick all of your mushrooms and you throw them away. How's that for a business plan? That's the only option, because you have to get rid of the cycle. You have to get rid of the larvae. You got to pick all your mushrooms off and throw them away. Got to do it. The only other thing I thought of was a wet dry vacuum. You know what I'm talking about? Fill it with soapy water already, and then you can go up to your mushrooms and you vacuum your mushrooms. Sounds nuts. I think it was that was a 2-beer idea. You know? I'm like, that could work. And it did. Turn it on high, tap the mushrooms, they try to fly away, and they get sucked into the soapy water, they suffocate and die. Terrible, huh? I'm a terrible human being. Terrible for saving my farm. You know, desperate measures. Then you also have green mold. So everybody growing mushrooms, or everybody who wants to grow mushrooms, should remember this word. It'll be a part of your vocabulary, because you will get it. 100% guaranteed. You'll get this mold, and you always will have it in your farm. There's no trichoderma-free farm. You just have to deal with it. All right? So trichoderma is a mycoparasite. It eats fungi. It's a fungus that eats. It has chitinase in it. Remember what chitin is? So it eats other fungi. Just dissolves their cell walls. That's not what you want, but you're going to have it. So you find some of this in your fruiting room. You walk in, you know, Monday, 8 a.m. You see some trichoderma. You're going to go grab it and throw it out? Or do you think that'd be better off at 4 or 5 p.m. to touch that thing? You better wait. Leave it there. Don't water it. Write this down too, really important. Trichoderma is hydrophobic. What else is hydrophobic? What happens when you drop water onto something that's hydrophobic? How about acid? What happens? Water to acid, it explodes. Acid to water does not. If you add water and you water this thing, boom, it explodes. It actually explodes, and you have a cloud of trichoderma now. So you got to be really careful. So if you see trichoderma in your fruiting room, please don't water it. You know, you just had a bomb go off. So what you want to do, you can spray it, but spray it with 100% bleach, because bleach is greasy. It doesn't react like that. And maybe mix a little soap in it, like a surfactant. Have a bottle. So in our farm, we have 3 or 4 bottles in our fruiting room, spray bottles. One's hydrogen peroxide. One is bleach. One is rubbing alcohol. And the last one is the BTI, the bacteria. We can shoot and squirt into holes. We have a whole we ever see a problem, we do a little bit of surgery, you know? Just nip it right where you see it. So every day the fruiting room manager walks around, they pick all the mushrooms off in the morning, and then they go around like a little butterfly and just hit anything that they see as weird. Molds, flies, stuff like that. It's easy. You got to do it every day, and you never will have a problem. You won't have to spray. You won't have to do all that. So I think it's just about proper management. Because look at that. That's what you don't want to see in your farm at all. That's green mold growing off of a sawdust substrate, you know, and I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I might put that in a bag, you know, with gloves, tie it into a knot, or throw the gloves in there too, because they're contaminated. Just knot it up and get rid of it. Gone. Treat it like a hazardous waste, because it really is. Yeah. That's what I do on a Friday night. Can grow happiness. All right. You like my corn slide? I don't know who you voted for. Yeah. That's a great question. All right, so write this down. The product is called Serenade. Everything I'm recommending to y'all is organic or OMRI approved, by the way. All right, so Serenade is a bacteria. It's Bacillus subtilis. And it's a special strain that will kill trichoderma and not harm the mushroom mycelium, which is interesting. So I ordered a bunch of that for soaking and whatnot. All right, so I want to talk about Morels quickly. This is actually a class that I give every year at Clemson University. It's called Morel Madness for March Madness, because that's when things start to get crazy. All right, I love mushroom people. I love you guys. But 2 to 3 weeks out of the year, you're nobody's friend. You're not. You're liars, deceitful. You carry knives. All right? Everybody goes quiet during morel season. Do you know that? They know. You know? Hey, Trad, when are you going out morel hunting? See? This teaches you about morels. It also teaches you how to grow them. I don't think this was on our itinerary, but I want to give it to you anyway. Too bad. Extra points. So morels have a very unique texture to them. So the best way to train your eyes to see them is to look at the hexagonal pattern of a beehive. You can print this out. You can save it or have it on your phone. And if you're not seeing morels, you look at that pattern, and your eyes go back and forth to the ground, and all of a sudden you'll see morels. It's a weird phenomenon. And as you're picking morels too, all day long your eyes are straining on this texture, and then when you go home, you jump in the shower or close your eyes or lay down in bed and your eyelids close, you see this texture burned into the back of your brain. It's the strangest symptom of morel hunting. Any of you know what I'm talking about? It's odd. And it's not even a morel texture. It's this. You know? So now I'm going to hypnotize you a little bit. Ready? And there it is, popping out of the background. All right? Morels are weird. They are part mycorrhizal. So what does that mean? They might need a tree. Those of you who hunt morels, right? What kind of trees do you look around? They'll share that with you, right? Beech. Elm. Different morel species are on different trees. All right, so I have ash trees, ash morels. The ash morels can get as big as this cup. I'll show you. Remember the one with the camouflage I was showing you? Yeah? That one mushroom I was holding, that's where somebody called me and they said, you know, I'm from Ohio, I just moved to South Carolina, and I didn't think there were morels down here. And he goes, I found a spot. He goes, they're everywhere, but they're too big to be morels. And then he did something really profound. He said, can I show you where they are? I actually took the time to reprimand him for doing it. I said, yeah, because I do research. I said, but you don't do that. You don't know me. You know, you don't tell anybody that. So I look after his location every year. And I'll look after yours too if you trust me. Just, you know what? Post the pictures and keep the metadata on. See? All right. So this is totally different than what I've been teaching all day, because this is getting into morel cultivation. It's getting to be not so experimental anymore. It's very actually reliable. So you can do this, all right? Morels produce mycelium. They colonize, then they produce a resting structure called a sclerotia, right? Think of it like a little fatty potato, all right? So it eats during the year. It eats in the summer. It's feeding, it's sweating, and it's swimming through its environment, probably near a tree. And it needs the bacteria of the root system and all that stuff. They're killing and eating bacteria too. And then in the fall, they form resting structures. Now the resting structure needs cold weather and water. You get that in the winter, right? You need at least 250 chill hours, soil temperature below 32. Do you get that in Indiana? Oh, yeah. You probably got it in 1 week. Yeah. Do you get it in West Palm Beach, Florida? No. So are morels in Florida? No. And that for a reason. I'm actually on the line, a little bit above the line. So somewhere in Georgia, South Carolina, like zone 8 and above, have morels. Everything below doesn't. All right? Morels produce spores out of these little sacs called an ascus or asci. You know, that's my second mushroom joke. Hope I didn't offend anybody. Remember, mushrooms produce heat. Morel mycelium is fast. Shiitake mushroom mycelium is really slow. It would take like 2 weeks to colonize a plate. All right? A morel will colonize this in 2 days. So it's really fast. But all those little, see all those little crystals you see on there? That's sclerotia. That's what it's doing. It's storing those. So understanding why morels do this will help you become a morel grower, not just a hunter. So those of you who hunt morels, if you go out and try to find them, I'm going to give you some clues on how to find them, but I'm also going to show you how to take that morel and make more. Because I sell spawn. What I don't sell is morel spawn because it doesn't make sense. They're very particular to their area. I'd have to have morel strains for 3 different regions of every different state. I don't want to do that. So that's why in the book I encourage you to find a morel here or wherever you're from and then propagate it from there. All right? The book tells you how to make the slurry. All right? So just showing you that they are mycorrhizal with specific trees. I have ash trees. The leaves are not on the trees. So how many of you are good at winter tree identification? 2 or 3, maybe. All right? All the ash trees are dead. Was it with the ash borer?
Yes.
I got something for them. Tulip poplars in my area. Floodplains are good. This is a morel high. I'm just going to breeze through those. Here's one of my favorite spots. I'm not going to tell you where. Right? But on a good day, I can collect about 20 to 30 pounds of those. That's actually a medium-sized mushroom. Look at those. That's an ash morel. They're huge. Right? And another thing mushroom people do that's just really annoying is they spread all their morels out and take pictures and post it. Like, you know, jab. After. You know, they don't tell anybody they're going out. Boy, as soon as they hit that harvest, that's good. It's a good spot. There it is. That's the one. All right, so this guy says, hey, can I show you where they are? I show up. Do you know how many of these we picked around one tree? 160. So look up YouTube channel. Write this down. This is our YouTube channel. It's called Spore Prints. And you'll see a lot of videos on there. That'll be your continuing education once I'm gone. Look up. It's called Killer Morel Patch. How's that for a title? Killer Morel Patch. You'll see the firefighter who showed me the spot. I'm sitting there with him, you know, and painting around. These morels are everywhere. He already picked 60 the day before. So there was 220 around one tree. That's crazy. It was a dead ash tree. Right? You have to have camouflage too. You got to sneak up on them. Right? Just hypnotizing you guys. There's blonde morels. There's black morels.
You said look it up. I was looking it up on YouTube. Like, that's the volume. It was not turned.
I thought your phone was going off.
No.
Because I will answer it. I had one gal on the front row, and her phone went off, and I grabbed it, and I said, hello? And he goes, can I talk to my wife? And I said, honestly, she's a little busy right now. Click, he hung up, and then she had to go call him back and say, my teacher's crazy. Blonde morels, black morels, quick ID thing. So you see the ridge there? See how it's black? That little black edge? That's a black morel. Blonde morels are not like that. So just so you know, see that's a blonde morel. Isn't that beautiful? All morels are hollow, right? If they're not hollow, it's not a morel. That'll keep you alive. What kind of morel is that? Black, yeah, for the ridges. Those are young. Morels actually take about 2 weeks to grow. They're slow. They inflate really slow. All right? So if you see something like that, these are really tight. The pits are not expanded. You see the difference between that and that? That's the same strain. That's an ash morel. Look at that. It goes to that. It takes about a week. So if you see those, are you going to pick those? Or are you going to risk leaving them there? What'd you say? It just depends, doesn't it? You can cover them with some leaves. I've done that before. You know, try to mark the trees. I had one time I was out hunting morels and I found just big patches. And I'm hunting and it's in turkey, you know, areas. And there's like these orange ribbons, you know, where the turkey hunters put things out, or so I thought. And then I looked over, and Olga's like, I'm like, Olga. She goes, I found a bunch of morels over here. And I'm like, is there a red ribbon near you? She goes, yeah, it's hanging right over the top of them. I was like, interesting. And I see red ribbons. So I walked over to every single one, cleaned it out, pulled out a black Sharpie out of my pocket, and I was like, thank you. That must have hurt coming back, you know? God. Just cut stumps and thank yous. But anyway, morels are cool. There's also half-free morels. There's also poisonous things that might be a lookalike. But again, you know, I teach mushroom identification for 7 different states, the health departments, right? These are stuffed. You see the cottony tissue? That's not a morel. Doesn't even look like one. It's all wrinkled. That's a false morel, right? Wrinkled, multi-chambered inside. That one contains monomethylhydrazine. If you cook it and eat it, anybody know what that might be? Huh? Could you die from it? It doesn't sound, well, it is organic. Everything's organic. That's rocket fuel. That is real rocket fuel. We could be growing this on Mars, eating the mushroom, and the rocket fuel comes out, you know, to get home. Mushrooms have infections like this. Same thing with your mushrooms that you grow inside. Don't mix these. Those molds spread really quickly. You don't want to pick. Mushrooms are designed to rot. That's what they do too, right? So just leave them there. Things that'll drive you absolutely nuts in the woods looking for morels are things with the same texture, right? You're going to strain your eyeballs all over the place. Yeah. These are other. Oh, you know what? Does anybody know that one? Whittier. You can grow this too on logs, but it's actually everywhere. Grows on. I've collected all over North America. It's everywhere in Jamaica. Everywhere. It's weird. And you know, I found these growing in Haiti, and they only recognize one mushroom in Haiti. One mushroom is named. That's strange. It's called John, D-J-O-N, D-J-O-N. So I find some oyster mushrooms, and then I found some Whittiers, and I took them to the lady, the chef in Haiti, and I said, "Can you cook these for me?" She goes, "No. That's going to kill you." Like everything was considered poisonous or deadly, all right? So the director said, "Oh, no, Trad knows his mushrooms. He'll be fine." Yeah. And so they're cooking them up, and they bring them out, and right before I eat them, I glance back towards the kitchen, and the 4 ladies or 5 ladies that were in there were peeking out of the kitchen like this. And their heads were stacked up. They were like, they're like, So I looked back over there, and I started eating them, and and I hit the ground, and those ladies came running out. They're like, "Oh, my God." And I was like, "Gotcha." And they were like, I don't know what they said in Creole, but it wasn't good. And none of them would try it except the head lady, and she turned to the other and said, "Man, these are really good." The Mycophobic Society. Pluteus, this is another mushroom that grows in morel season. It's got pink spores. Enoki mushrooms. You all familiar with enoki? You can grow these on logs. Same method as logs and stumps. They prefer stumps. So if you're cutting a tree down, growing shiitakes on the logs, you can drill and plug these into the stump. Enoki, how many of you know what enoki mushroom is or what it looks like? Does that look like it? What are the ones? Yeah? All right, so they're really white and they're really tall. So now that from what you've learned this morning, how are those mushrooms? This is how it looks in nature. How is that mushroom grown? In the dark and high carbon dioxide, right? A very medicinal mushroom that's not getting light. That's the way it looks. That's the way it should look, right? So it's a good medicinal mushroom. It's really high in cancer-fighting molecules, right? Right. So growing mushrooms in the dark period denies them the wavelengths, to activate certain biochemical pathways. It's like a tool. You take the light away, it's not the same. Lion's mane. Y'all know this one? Really good. You got your spots. Got your trees. This is another one. It tastes like lobster or like crab meat. It's really good. This one you can grow on logs. If you're going to grow these on, how many of you found this before? What kind of wood does it grow on? I'm just trying to get, it's different all over the U.S. I'm trying to figure it out. Oak, yeah, oaks for us, oak. Maple, oak, maple, cherry, and beech for us in the southeast, right? This one is, it's not an oyster mushroom. It doesn't have all those chemical keys, so it can't grow on a really large range. But so ask your spawn supplier, like I know exactly, it'd be oak, maple, cherry, or beech, all right? So the different strains. And we get these turned in sometimes. If you find a mushroom growing on something that's a little irregular, you can dry it out and send it to me. I'll clone it and send you some spawn back. How's that? Little finder's fee. But it's good to have other strains. But that one's a great edible mushroom We'll talk about medicinal properties of that one later. All right. This is important with this particular one is that morels are pitty. They're covered with cups. It's a cup fungus. So they can collect a lot of things in there. So some quick tips on how to take care of them. See, that was that one day. Look at that. See? That's what you post on Facebook and get all this hate mail. You know? So I was taking spore prints of those. The spores are brown. Ah. When you put them in water, you're going to saute or just kind of heat them up in some hot water first. The reason we do this, look at the fluid. See how brown it is? That's where all your flavor is. You don't want to throw that out, but it's full of sand. So what we do is we take it out, mushrooms out, there's the broth, but watch this. These were clean morels. I mean, I really did my work cutting them, putting them in the basket, no dirt. Look at all the sand that came out. That's disgusting, right? That ruins a dish. So then you pour that out, we sift the juice back, put the morels back in and reduce it again, and now you have a good broth here. I cut the stems off too. The stems are kind of chewy, and I don't like them. You can dry these and powder them and make like a flavoring. So that's another thing. So write this down. I don't know if we won't have time to show slides. The slides are somewhere. Any part of the mushroom is edible. It might not be to your liking. It might be too fibrous or chewy or dense, like a shiitake stem, right? So you dry and powder that. Now you've made mushroom flour. 100% mushroom flour powder. Let me tell you what we can do with that. You can use it for breading. You can roll fish or chicken in it and sear it in a pan with some oil, and it makes a crust. Then you bake it. Now you've got a food that has a mushroom crust, crunchy crust all around the outside. It is awesome. Yeah. You can also use it for a flavoring, like shaking it into soups or eggs, a little bit of a thickener. So don't throw away the stems. And when you're selling your mushrooms, tell people to do that too. Consumers like free advice like that. Your value just went up. They're like, oh my God, well, I just throw the stems away. Not anymore. Now the $15 a pound just got better because I'm getting more value out of what I thought I was throwing away. Just to show you a comparison of why, you have the chill hours here, but these are chill hours that I was tracking for a number of years, and we had a really warm winter, there. It's like no winter at all. And now we have found morels, and then this year we found none, 0. All right, so I was trying to figure out. Now, if you want to time your morels here, since morels only fruit 3 weeks in one spot, only 2 to 3 weeks in one given spot, and you're trying to predict when to go out, that's the challenge, right? You know when to go out? What's that? Give or take. Yeah? In the South, it's a little harder. So I look at data, and I also look at about 10 to 15 degrees Celsius is about when it fruits. That's, let's say, 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit ground temperature consistently for 2 weeks. If it drops, it delays it. All right? But I've looked at all the data, so every year for the university, people come, they drive from 4 hours away because they want me to predict like the mushroom meteorologist or like a groundhog. Like I'm supposed to look out my little hole and predict for everybody. Why would I do that? But I do it. We got a cool club, and I let them have it, And every year they're getting anxious. Oh, it's got to be warm enough. I said, nope, it's not ready yet. Wait 1 more week, They found the first morels in Alabama last week. So they're coming. All right, might be early. So I look at all this data and I try to make sense of it. And I also look at heat maps, ground temperature maps for your area. So you pull up Indiana, look up soil temperatures at 4 inches, 4 to 8 inches deep. That's what you want to look at. All right? You check this out in the morning. If morels fruit consistently at 52 to 60 degrees, are morels fruiting here in Georgia? No? And even south, but you see that they might not have gotten the chill hours that they needed. So really the line is about here. So that's what I look at consistently and teach people that's the temperature you want to go for. So I just look at everything. That's last year, and that was February 4th. So already, if you look at 1 year to the next, look how far up it is already. I've been away for 2 weeks. I've been on the road teaching for 2 weeks. Do you know what that's doing to me? The morels are fruiting back home. You know, I'm going to go back and run into the woods. They're probably there. They could be there, you know. Go to morelmushroomhunting.com is a website. You can look at sightings. Morelmushroomhunting.com. Morelhunters.com is another one. See, look at that morel right there. See the size of it? That was from a screenshot from a video.
One more.
Oh, there's audio of this. So that's Olga picking morels. That was last year. See right around the base of the tree? See what I'm saying? They
And the rest
associate
of
with
them
those
we're gonna leave
trees.
them for next weekend.
And
'Cause
the
they're too little.
biggest one.
Oh, wow,
Oh,
Heidi.
look at that. What about this?
Pretty cool. So much fun. All right.
One more.
Now, you ready for how to grow them? All right. There's a really good chapter in my book. All right, I did a lot of research to write that chapter. There's a lot of myths about morel cultivation, and I went right to the source. I went to Tom Volk, right, and read through all of his research. I've been, looking at this for years, and I put it all together for you guys in the book. All right, so that's a good outdoor cultivation method, but they're starting to grow them. They're still outdoors, but they're growing them under greenhouse frames. So the Chinese version is essentially my version flipped upside down. So we've been adding mushroom spawn to everything today. But this is the opposite. This is strange. All right? Morels, well, let me get to this first. So let me show you the China. So here's your numbers. Number of acres under greenhouse in China, morels. 2016, 23,000 acres. Do you want to know what it is this year? 100,000. 100,000 acres to grow morels. And they're teaching it, right? And they're so secretive about it. They show these slides, and then they don't tell you like exactly how it works. But I'm going to tell you, because I know people at Penn State who told me. You need the temperature, the chill hours. Here's some photos, and I'll explain how they do it and why. Morels grow from non-nutritive to the food source, and then remember the sclerotia, the resting structures? So they find their food, they have to starve, they find their food, then they translocate the resting structures back to where the food is not, and that's how they fruit. But if you add your spawn to the nutritive side, none of that ever happens. It's strange. So that's how they're doing it. Check it out. How many of you hunt morels? You're like, damn, I want to do that. Well, now you can. So let me tell you how this is done. All right? They plow this field. They mix in morel mycelium here. It's in dirt. It's non-nutritive, essentially. Mineral dirt. It starves to death, but it still makes a network. Okay? Then they come back like a month or two later, and they lay these bags on the soil that are filled with grain and straw. And they puncture the bags, just the bottom. And they set them right on the dirt. So the bottom of these bags have little holes. What does the morel mushroom mycelium do? Goes up inside, mines the nutrients, translocates the sclerotia out in this little opening, and then they pop. It's pretty damn cool, you know? So it works.
Bags sterilized, or is it just
They're not sterilized, no.
straight dirty mix?
Just a dirty mix of food. The morels can do it. So this is an interesting phenomenon. So I think that we're going to do a trial this year of using different methods. In my book, the food is on the lower layer, then it's covered with dirt, and then you just spawn the top of the soil, you see? Then it goes down, finds it, and brings it back up to the top. This method you'd have to do with some protection, because if you just put bags of grain out in the wild, something's going to get it. I'm just guessing, you know? So that's how they're doing it over there. It's pretty awesome. Just growing morels like rows of corn. See, I believe we can do that here. I don't see why not. Yeah.
How long does it take for them to develop and grow?
That we don't know yet. I'm not sure if they're doing this all like one season. Like if you're starting them, I would recommend you start in April or May, and then they'll fruit the following year. So it's a yearly thing. It's not going to happen because they need the chill hours. They need that whole cycle of events, especially if you're using your native morel strains. I don't think it's not anything you're going to get, you know, just like oyster mushrooms a couple weeks down the line. Yeah.
There's no tree involved in this?
No trees. Yep. Morels are predatory on bacteria, so you really don't need the tree anymore. You can mine the bacteria too. If you save your morel that you found and you collect some of the dirt, that's what I like. That's in my book about making a microbial slurry. Question? Is it you? Yeah.
So if you have patches out in the woods, then could you feed those patches?
I don't know. You mean the wild patches?
Yeah, like, I mean, go chuck a bag of grain out.
Yeah, in theory you could. Yeah, could try that. But anyway, that just shows you some production going on. They've been doing it for a little while. Works pretty good. Yeah, all right, so that explains the life cycle. That's from my book. Spores, they land, they find their food, they make the sclerotia, they get water and freeze, and then those turn into the morels later. All right, so all I did was figure out how to speed it up. That's it. So this is all in my book. It shows you where they put sclerotia right near where the nutritive part is. They don't like it, so they put them away from the body of the mycelium. It's just strange. This is an indoor experiment that I did. I could not get it to fruit. I just got busy. But I think this year we're going to start trying to grow them in trays indoors. You know, why can't, if we can do it in the wild, why can't you have a pile of soil, you follow, and a bag of grain sitting on top of it? You know, they're not doing that yet, so I think we should go for it. But I've got this far anyway. I've figured out how to make sclerotia really easy, right in a bag. So that's a huge thing. And that's from the book, shows you the non-nutritive, non-nutritive, spawn, nutritive. Oh, spawn, yeah, so the mushroom mycelium mines it and brings it back up to the top. So you have that. There you go. They figured it out. 100,000. You think that's going to drop the price of morels worldwide? Yeah. I wonder what kind of water they're irrigating with. You follow? Might be contaminated. Why is the water contaminated? I like his answer, because it's China. Yeah, not everyone. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of contamination there. The waters, mushrooms are 90% water. They absorb everything. Remember the thing I told you was the worst things that they absorb? Heavy metals. So they're testing a lot of the mushrooms grown in China, and they're really high in heavy metals. All right? Buyer beware. I told you. Question or stretching?
What was the cold time for the Morels?
I'm sorry?
How long does it have to be below the 32 for the Morels? Are you guessing, I guess you could say?
In my area, 250 hours, something like that. But you get it here. You just don't, you gotta, it's that line.
I was looking at you saying something about doing it indoors. How long would you have to do it? How long are you guessing you'd have to put it in that system? If you do it indoors?
You'd have to freeze it. You'd have to put it into a freezer.
Yeah, for the 250 hours.
Yeah. And the commercial farm in Colorado, as soon as I told them I was onto it, they said, we have a walk-in freezer that we're not using. I was like, really? How big is it? You know, trays, wheel them in for a week and a half, pull them out, water them, and so they're interested in maybe collaborating on that. I like that.
How much does like a pound of morel go for?
A pound of morels. Yeah, I mean, morels can go for $30 to $40 a pound easy. Depends on the size of everything.
So when you're talking about the water being contaminated, I'm back on that in my mind. So I understand that morel, or not just morels, but mushrooms in general will filter out contaminants,
Yeah,
except for heavy metals. Is that true?
right.
And most anything else,
Hmm.
not heavy.
Mushrooms are good at breaking down like their environment. So we'll talk about a little remediation here shortly of how mushrooms clean soil. We've kind of talked about that. It's like the duck egg. Molecular things are going to break down. But heavy metals, I mean, they're elemental, so they get absorbed. Okay? They mine it and magnify it, which can be dangerous. So if you're starting a farm and you're growing indoors, how important is it to you to get a water test done? Very important, right? Just show you some things I'm doing overseas. So we'll get back to, that's my class over abroad in Jamaica. And I went out. This was a spot in the jungle on a mountain. And people walked there up a mountain to come learn about mushroom cultivation. I was surrounded by guys with dreaded beards and machetes. And these guys showed up and they interrupted me and they said, "What are you doing here?" You know, in the back. "White people don't come here." How do you even answer that? I said, "Good thing I'm not white." I just pulled the crazy card. And he's like, "Say what?" And I held my arm up to the dry erase board and I said, "See? That's white." You guys go, "Shit." I said, "I'm actually whitish," okay? And by the end of 2 days, I found out this guy was the head elder of like the tribal area over there. That's why. You know, just very distrusting. And he stood up and told everybody, he goes, "I don't care if this man is white, black, green, or whitish. He's one of us." I'm one of the group now. Anyway, I told them, I said, "What are your problems here? Not just mushroom stuff." This guy, the head elder, was like the bee guru on the whole island, right? And he goes, "We have these red ants. They get up into the hives. They destroy everything. All their beehives are sitting on stilts of water, you know? And the ants make little chains, you know, across the water. You ever seen that phenomenon? To try to get up in there." He goes, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Oh, I got something for that. If we can find an ant or a bug that's mummified, we can expand them." You remember the fruit flies? So these are called entomopathogenic fungi. These are cool. So we actually found some ants biting onto the branches. So this was an infected bug. I know what to look for. Even though it doesn't look infected, it is. Right? So we teaching some mushroom cultivation there. That's my driver. I'm lucky to be alive. This guy, he would drive 90 miles an hour through these villages, dodging goats, rolling joints at the same time. I had to take pictures of it. He's like doing this. Lucky to be here, guys. Coconut waste, different things we were growing on. So we grew some oyster mushrooms on coconut waste. That's the Minister of Agriculture there. That's a small lab. Are any of you interested in laboratory culture? There might be a small number, right? We don't cover it on this class, but I do teach tissue culture. That's our lab in Jamaica. You don't need much. Look at that. A filter, a little room. This whole setup probably cost maybe $500. Now, we're the only operating mushroom spawn lab in Jamaica, maybe even the Caribbean. So we're selling a lot of mushroom spawn out of this tiny little space. We can't even keep up. So I got to go back down there and, supervise. Yeah, man. Yeah, why not? Outdoor fruiting space. So this shows you how primitive of a oyster mushroom space you can use, right? So they built this, little concrete pad, sticks. Look at that. And there's your insect netting. That's how they did it. Works pretty good. I noticed I showed up, and I noticed there was some gaps, up in there. So we filled all that, made it bug tight. There's a lot of bugs in Jamaica. It's warm. They don't ever slow down. Inside, draped. That's all insect netting right here, all the way down to the ground. A barrel for heating water. Remember I talked about how to heat the straw? Same thing. We had a little trough here. They were using this for dyeing indigo. Now we use that. We heat up the stuff. It drains here. This is a drying rack for the straw that they use. So we don't have straw there. So we found out that lemongrass works really good. Lemongrass is invasive down there. It's everywhere. So we just cooked that up. There you go. Same setup. Does it look familiar from this morning? It works really good. Shredding, right? Why do we shred? Particle size, yeah. Got to do it there too. Fully colonized buckets. That's cool. We cloned this mushroom growing off of a moringa tree, oyster mushroom. It colonized lemongrass in 7 days, and it fruited on day 10. All right? The strains I have fruit every 3 weeks, like on a clock, every 21 days. It needs to rest, feed, and boom, mushrooms, flush. Feed, rest, boom. Do you know what the waiting period is on this between the flushes? 2 days. I want this strain back here. All right, it's insane. The tropical ones are really good. They're really aggressive. Bucket systems, that works pretty good. That's some research he's doing. No, my driver, that's where he stopped. I'm like, what the hell? Coconut fiber, right? How's that for a coconut fiber mountain? They were like, I was like, what can we grow mushrooms on here? And they said, oh, we'll take you to Coconut Mountain. And I thought it was going to be a mountain where the coconuts were, not a mountain of coconut. So that's what we're using to grow a lot of different mushrooms there. So it just goes to show you, tropical fungi are cool also. All right, how about wood turners? Even here, cabinet makers. Now that you know mushrooms, oyster mushrooms will grow on just about anything, it's time to start looking around for substrates, all right, that could be free. This was a wood mill in Jamaica. Similar, North Carolina, my grandfather, when he found out that I was growing mushrooms, he says, shoot, there's a cabinet maker right next door, and he piles up his sawdust right near the property line. It was this tall, and he's doing nothing with it. So I went over there and scooped some of that up, soaked it in a little warm water, added oyster mushrooms, and it fruited in 14 days from somebody else's waste. Just a gold mine, right? So look around for stuff like that. The other thing I was looking at down there was the sugarcane industry. There was a termite problem All right. Termites destroy 50% of all the sugarcane. 50%. That's a lot. So I'm down there, and I said, oh, I got something for them. Next thing I knew, the Minister of Agriculture was trying to find me. He goes, I hear you can kill the termites? I said, yes, but we have to find some dead ones first. So we went out to these mounds. We found some termites that were mounds that were dead, scooped out some of the dead bodies. Remember like I did with the female fruit flies? We got a culture, a fungus that mummifies termites. It only took me a couple weeks. There they are. So why is all this important for you today? Is because, remember I told you about the fungus gnats, all right? It's not just about mushroom farming. This is about changing agriculture completely. All right? If we have target-specific fungi for all of our garden pests, isn't that a wonderful thing? Right? So these fungi attack specific insects. This is just the ant model. It sticks to the cuticle like a magnet. Then it's going to drill a hole, then it's going to mummify that insect. Then it's going to start steering it around like a remote control. What'd you say? It's crazy. It's right. It gets better, right? Then if this ant, it's going to make the ant crawl up a tree, up and down. Then it's going to find the right humidity. Then it's going to go left and right on different branches. I've sat there and watched them before. Then all of a sudden, the ant stops. It picks a perfect spot, and it bites into the branch. The fungus melts the jaw muscles and gives it lockjaw. So it's hanging there upside down, biting into a branch, not knowing how it got there, probably thinking something's not right. It secretes a toxin, and the mushroom pops out the back of the brain. It comes out of the brain. Now, why was it going left and right? This researcher tied a thread to each one of these dead bodies, and they lined up perfectly with the superhighway that the rest of his ant friends were using on the forest floor. That's nuts. Do you think it can get any worse? The workers, when they try to go back and feed the queen, all right, if the guard detects them like TSA, they'll latch onto the workers, drag them away, decapitate the worker, cut their heads off, dump them into a graveyard. Then the guard digs another hole, and they get in there, and they commit suicide to protect the queen. So then you have less and less guards. Then a worker comes right in, feeds the queen some spores, and boom, you got mushrooms popping out of her brain. That's pretty wild. Think about that right before you go to bed. You know? That's like the girl in Oregon, that tiny little girl said, does that happen to people? Like, only if you don't clean your room. Poor girl. So that's your homework assignment, is to look for infected bugs that have mushrooms growing out of them. They could be mummified, all white, or they have structures coming out of those. So just kind of get used to looking for these. These can change everything, right? If you find enough of these, you can make your own powder right in your kitchen. I'm going to see if I have that slide set here, but it's really easy. Leaf hoppers. Look at these moths. Aren't they awesome? Some of these photos are from Todd Elliott. He's a good friend of ours. Cockroaches. That's a game changer, huh? Olga found that in a lawn chair that we pulled out in the spring. We opened it up, and there's a fully mummified cockroach sitting there. That was like the best gift in the world, besides the fruit flies. I love infected bugs. Don't bring me flowers.
What do you put the mummified bodies on? Is it gar?
You can, I think I'm going to show you how to magnify it. But you can basically put these in a blender with some flour and just grind them up, and then put that in water, and you made a spore solution out of it. Then you can put it back on. You're interested in the spores. This is a mold, right? And then it turns into a fruiting body later, all right? But these are just some examples of things to look for in your garden. These aren't for cultivating, in a sense, for production, but if you are growing other crops, look for these. They're a game changer. There's the one that I found biting in with the mushroom popping right out of the back of its brain. That's how they fruit, upside down. Pretty wild. Aphids, mummified. Look at that. Fully mummified aphid group, right? Much more specific. Oh yeah, here it is. All right, so if you do find a bug, here's one. You put it in a humidity jar. So put it in a jar with a wet paper towel. And then all of a sudden the mold just fluffs up like that. So it's producing a lot of infectious spores. All right, then you find more of that bug, more of the same bug. You drop that beetle in there, this one in with these guys. Here you go. Now the party's on. Shake it up. They all get spores on them. They get drilled and mummified, and you can just keep making more of that. But now you mummify all these. You take those, put them in a blender with some flour, sift out the body parts. Sounds like a Saturday night thing. Somebody, hey Bob, what you doing? Sifting out body parts. Of course you are. Now you've made the same thing that you would have bought. Do you follow? Except it's more target specific for the beetle or the bug that you found. That's cool. Right? There's my virgin fruit flies. I told you. There they are. One escaped. They also have them for mosquitoes. See that? That's pretty cool. What's the worst garden pest here? Well, maybe not the worst, a couple.
Squash vine borer.
Same thing, stink bugs, squash vine borers. I can't even grow squash, and I'm looking for mummified bugs. So if you find one, dry it and send it to me. And it'll be your bug. Imagine that, if you can find one, to be the person who found a target-specific fungus. Do you know how much that would be worth? I can't even think of that much money. What are you going to do with $5 billion a year? You know? Fire ants for us. I solved that problem. Anybody eat fire ants? You like fire ants? Do you know what they are? I brought some. Nah, I know they won't. No, I've been breeding them to make them more cold hardy. You think I didn't see that coming? You find the fungus, I clone it. Look at that. That's cool. Look at that one. Look at that's a wasp. Everybody push. Feel that little hole right there. Do it. You took an oath. Imagine a mushroom coming out of there. Damn, that's got to hurt. Yeah?
How fast do the mushroom heads pop out of those?
That's a good question. So it takes 4 to 6 days to mummify them, and then the structure comes out after maybe 2 weeks. It's pretty quick. Slow growing. That's a cicada nymph. This is the first cordyceps I ever found, to just give you an idea of what to look for in your garden. That's the length of your eyelash. That's how small they are. And I just found it by accident. I was looking at an oyster mushroom on a log, taking a picture, and right next to my hand, I saw it coming out of a log. I'm like, what is that? Coming out of a little hole. So I took my knife and I popped it out, and in my hand, look at that, fell a fully mummified black carpenter ant. It looked like a hornet. It was huge. So I sent it to Harvard, and they're like, we haven't seen this since 1907. The specialist said that. He goes, where did you find it? And I said, I'm not going to tell you. First order of business, right? I don't want them coming down. So it's South Carolina, somewhere, just like Morels, somewhere down there. He goes, the reason being is because this is a queen. You found one with a queen growing out of it, which is really rare. All right, the queen's very protected. So we cultured this. We cloned it. I took a dental pick. You see all that? See how it's coming out of the hinges? That's how you know it's infected if you see a bug. And I infected more. See how it's coming out of the eyes, the legs, the antennae, like everywhere. Oh man, what a way to go. So then I figured, hey, let's see if it'll work on other things like fire ants. So I pitched this idea to Olga, all right? Let me tell you what, hey, I got a great idea. I'm gonna start some fire ant farms in the house. And she goes, no, you're not. I said, come on, it's Christmas. She goes, all right, just promise me they're not going to get out. All right. So I sprinkled the fungus that I found in the woods for the queen carpenter ant. And after 4 to 6 days, it completely mummified all of the fire ants in there. I'm telling you, this is a huge discovery, because what it means, if I can do it, you can do it, and anybody can do it. But it could be good for any garden pest. And I think that's revolutionary that fungi can do that, right? Completely replace chemical pesticides? Whew, who wants to see that? I think all of us do, unless you work for them, right? Am I beating up the pesticide industry?
It's okay.
Yes. I just think it's, huh? It's not that hard. And I think that the reason I think people are shocked, I bet you if you won't find these mummified bugs in a conventional garden, because the pesticides have killed everything. But in an organic garden, if you go snooping around, looking under leaves, that's where they like to hide, you're going to find them. So in the spring and the summer, look around in your garden and try to find these. And people are turning these things into me all the time. And honestly, since I can't sell them as a biopesticide, the only thing I could do is teach how to do it. Does that make sense? So there's where we're going to win. You have to register it as a biopesticide through the EPA. Do you think they're going to let you walk in right through there with that? No way. I've tried. Nobody wants to collaborate with me at all. So I said, the hell with it. I'm just going to go on the road and teach it. They can't stop me, right?
So at what stage, because I've used Microbes and Microbes for aphids.
Yeah.
And now it's just in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find aphids that have been infected with it, even though I haven't sprayed it
Yay.
in a while.
Yeah.
So, but then at first they start to puff up
Mm-hmm.
and they change color.
Yeah.
So at what stage would you want to, of the infection?
You want late stage. You want them to fluff and sporulate. Like they're called Canidia spores. You want them to do that. That's why I recommend you can pick them, even take them off the plant and put them in a jar of humidity and just let them overdevelop. Then make the powder, dry them up. That's great. She's figured it out. Feels good, huh? Now they're more target specific towards that. That's cool. See the locusts over in Indonesia. Some of the Clemson researchers, these are their slides, so I have to give them credit. I was like, hey, do you have that stuff you did over in Indonesia with the locusts and everything? So I said, yeah, we went over there and they were spraying their fields like with pesticides, like killing everything, you know, not just the locusts, but you're going to kill all the beneficials too, everything, all bug life. Did you hear about the report about bugs and biodiversity last week? Huh? Dying off. They're predicting a 40% drop in like less than 10 years. That's not good. 40% of all insect life? Whew. Let's not be a part of that problem. Let's do this. All right. Way to bring everybody down. It's such a happy experience. So they taught everyone how to find these locusts. All you need to find is one. And they ground up the bugs with like a mortar and pestle and mixed it into grain, and they magnified that, sprayed it on the field, and they got 100% biological control using that fungus. That's a game changer. These people were drinking contaminated water, you know. It's gone now. That's great. All the wells were contaminated, you know, from the seeping. So growing 2 different kinds of mold right there in a hut. I think if they can do it, you can do it. All right? But what it is mine is more target specific. And you have these, that's acephate, so that's orthene. And you see all the damage. That's listed on the EPA site, all the mortality of all these different organisms. But fungi are cool. If you understand how to grow them, yeah, that's 7.5 billion pounds of that one molecule on U.S. soil every year. That's terrible. Fungus and varroa mites. Anybody interested? All right, so this is a fungus that attacks the varroa mite, that hitchhikes onto bees, meal feeds, injects viruses, stuff like that. Not a good one. So the USDA found a fungus that is specific to the varroa mite. Would you like to know the brand name? MET52. MET52 is active against varroa mites and brown spotted ticks. You got ticks here? You have Lyme disease here? Yeah. Sounds like a miracle fungus, doesn't it? Imagine what that would do for like the pet industry. Maybe shampoo or dust your dog down with that, or cats. That's great. You want the bad news? Here we go again. Here goes trad. It was owned by, let's see, MET52. It was owned by Novozymes, and it was available. Novozymes just sold it to Monsanto, and now it's gone. It's freaking gone. That's nuts. I can't find it anywhere. So I lectured around a little bit. People got to know me in the U.S. And I said, if anybody finds any, let me know. I got a box sitting on my desk with no return label. Think that scares the shit out of me? I gave it to my employees, and it's like, is this ticking? They said, no. And I opened it up, and there was one Petri plate in there, and it said MET52. And it said, save the bees. Awesome. I don't know where it came from. Some mushroom fairy out there. I think somebody got it and gave it to me. So now I can share it with anybody for free if you want it. Wink, wink. Got it? Come to my farm and I'll give you some. But I can't ship it over or across state by state law. I might be able to rename it. I might have to talk to my attorney and see if we can get it back out there. But I would have to re-register it as what? A biopesticide again.
So
It's crazy.
you can't ship it. I was thinking we order something and then it just happens to be in the box. But you can't ship it.
I hear drones. Okay? Nah, I'm just doing it. Yeah, maybe. Endophytes. These are cool phenomena. So getting back to the 5 million plus mushrooms on the planet, these are fungi that live inside of plant tissue, which is really cool. So endophytes are weird. So when you're planting a seed, you're not just planting that plant. You're planting a fungus and a seed together. Even if you surface sterilize the seed, you soak them in alcohol, right? Then you plant it. That seed germinates. It has endophytes in the seed that it cultivates for the life of that plant. What if we could insert a fungus into the seed that mummifies squash vine borers? Can it be done? Yes. That's the good news. See, I brought us right back up. Yay! Mushrooms are going to save the world. So researchers are now finding that they're dusting seeds with specific mushroom spores or mold spores that will give them an immune system and protect them against biting insects. That's nuts, right? So I love endophytes. So I'm looking at, down in Jamaica, I'm looking at the coffee and chocolate industry. I'm also doing research with antibiotics. If you want to talk a little bit about medicinal mushrooms before we take a break, all right? Remember I started out with every mushroom is medicinal. Every single one. They all have a gift. They're trying to protect themselves. That's what they do. They're sweating out. They're battling their way through a non-sterile environment. There's mushroom viruses out there. They're dialing that stuff up too. That's why mushrooms are cool. They're like vending machines. They just make things on demand. So I figured out that I could take a biopsy or a throat culture right? From a livestock, a cow, a goat, a human being, a moldy strawberry, mildew off of a squash, and I can make the mushroom create something on demand. All right? What was my Christmas present?
Fruit flies.
Virgin fruit flies. How dare you? My birthday's in January, right? My birthday present to myself was salmonella, strep, Streptococcus pyogenes, Streptococcus pneumoniae, staph, E. coli, Candida, Pseudomonas. I ordered like the pathogen combo plate on the menu. And here it is on my get home, and there's this big box that says biohazard on it. And Olga's like, ah, jeez. What are you doing now? I said, I'm interested in adding the mushrooms to the bacteria, see what happens, right? But this is cool, right? I didn't think it would work this good. You know, I just speculated. So if by taking a biopsy or a throat culture, imagine that. So you go in, you get a throat culture. Anyone ever done that? Almost all of us have, all right? We all have naturally occurring strep there, right? It just gets out of hand. But what if we were able to take that sample and feed it to the mushrooms and the mushroom sweats out the antibiotic? Do you remember the little droplets when we started? Yeah, that's where I was on. So I went to work for the EPA. I did tissue culture for the EPA with cancer cell lines. And now I'm looking at bloodborne pathogens and able to take stuff like this, even off of your body, a sample, and feed it to the mushrooms to try to produce a novel antibiotic that's patient-specific, that comes out of every single person. That's a specialized, customized solution that will defeat drug-resistant bacteria. Boom. That was a 3-beer idea. Late one night, like poof. And I showed this to my advisor at Clemson, and I went back to school at 38, okay? And I showed him this. I already had the farm, you know. My book was being written my senior year, and I was in the research lab, and I showed him this, and he goes, do you know what you're proposing right now? Can keep 10 PhDs busy for 10 years. He goes, get out of my office and get a lawyer. And I did, you know. But what's interesting about this is we're covered with bacteria. We need bacteria, but we can't destroy them all either. It's just like the immune system of our plants and our biology. Our gardens need the biodiversity. If we kill all the insects, that's not good. So what's the worst thing you can do to your garden? Really? Using a fungicide. A systemic fungicide will strip all those beneficial fungi away from your plants. So they're kind of helpless. They can't defend themselves against infections. Does that make sense? So this was demonstrating to me like how important it is to maintain an organic garden as well. All right? So I started streaking things. You have staph on your forehead. That's good staph, by the way. If you use the sanitizers out there, just touch your forehead and recolonize. If you're a microbiologist, you can do crazy stuff. You know, I swabbed my, this is gross. I swabbed my belly button. Do you know what's living inside your belly button? I think a lot of you are going to, never mind. You're going to spend some extra time on your belly button tonight. Let me just tell you that. Anyway, that's my work I do down in the West Indies. Also to talk about medicinal compounds without getting into too much trouble. You know, just beating everything up. Psilocybe cubensis is one of the easiest mushrooms to grow on the planet. In fact, it's the #1 produced mushroom grown on the planet, right? It is a Schedule I psychedelic that they're looking to decriminalize, and there's a reason for it, because this one hits the reset button in your brain. We talked a little bit about it. All right? If it turns off the default mode network of your brain so you can actually think and communicate with your brain, all right? You have a force field around it. Thank you. You're getting all rowdy out there. There must be on psilocybin or something. So I don't want to ask the group who's done it and who hasn't. You know who you are. The easiest way to say who hasn't, raise your hand. Who hasn't? What are you waiting for? I've taped some under your chair. Can you feel it? It's right under there. 7 grams. No, I'm just kidding. Schedule 1 listed as no therapeutic value and a high probability of abuse. Now, I'm going to take a poll. How many people do you know, or have even heard of, are addicted to magic mushrooms? Right? How many people have died last year from eating these? None. These are helping to cure anxiety and depression with 1 dose. Okay? 1 dose. What's the #1 selling drug class in the United States? Antidepressants. How many people die from drug overdoses in the U.S. every year? Want to take a stab? 20 to 30,000. I don't know. I'm a big proponent of that class of molecules. Look at me, I'll just strobe you with different things. I would be able to see who's on them right now. So that was a test. Some of you did not pass. But, you know, that's what I'm doing in Jamaica. I got a permit now for the government, attorneys. I can do whatever I want, right? There's also novel antibiotics in those. I can't do it here unless I get a DEA license, you know. But I just think it's an interesting group of mushrooms to consider, you know. It's we got a lot of years ahead of us, you know. So we opened up what's called the Blue Portal, right, for taking patients, sick patients, healthy patients. It's 3 o'clock. Why don't we take a short, do you have any questions before I get back to remediation and medicinal compounds? That was a short break on some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a question. Would it count as a fatality due to psilocybin though if someone was like in a bad trip, let's say, and it went really bad and it ended up in like them doing something bad to themselves? Could they say that's because of the mushrooms though, on like the flip side of the coin?
Will the mushrooms make you crazy enough to hurt yourself? Probably not. That's interesting. You think if somebody that could be suicidal, taking that might be a bad idea, but it's the opposite. It's a gift. I mean, people are being saved by it, so that's why I can talk about it a little bit, you know. It's becoming less taboo to talk about. It's right there. But you can order the spores. They're really easy to order. I don't sell them, but you can order them online. They're pretty easy to grow. Yeah, it's just for microscopy only. Just don't get them wet or some magical things happen. So I just want to touch base with everybody so we can move forward. I do have some, let me pull up some other PowerPoints with commercial farms. We'll talk a little bit about organic. I've covered some of the stuff with organic, but if you want to know any information about who wants to get organic certified. Okay. There's also certified naturally grown. Is anybody interested in that? Yep. I'm actually on the committee.
What's the difference?
Just the stamp. It's almost the same criteria. Mm-hmm. Mushrooms are so different than plants, you know.
What's the cost?
The cost is way different. Yeah. So you can do a USDA. Most states have a share program. So I think they'll pay up to, like, I don't even know, like 75% of the cost, which is good. But then they want you to report all the, you know, how much money you made, the percentage of all the sales, and all that stuff. You have to pay X amount of dollars for every 1,000 you make, something like that. I don't get that. I don't think that's fair. Is anybody here from the USDA? Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's fair. I'll say it now. Let's take a short break, 10 minutes. Come back and we'll do remediation and medicinal together.